and welcome aboard the Good Ship Morning Madness. I am your captain for this pleasure cruise, Michelle Ross, and we are joined by special guest J. Alexander Greenwood. Hello, Alex.
Good morning. All hands on deck. Your ration of rum is being served. All pirate hands.
All pirate hands. Well, we definitely have coffee aboard today.
We do. And go Chiefs. You of course call me Alex, of course. My fancy pen name, which I did an episode of my podcast about. Oh, look at me already plugging my own show. Isn't that terrible?
What are we doing? Okay, so let's fill the audience in just a moment. So, like I said, this is author J. Alexander Greenwood. He has written, oh my gosh, 5 and working on the 6th in the John Pilot mystery series. So for those of you that are not familiar with the John Pilot mysteries, I have included the link to the, what do you call it, the mothership for your brand and all your writing. It is included in the description of this video. I've known Alex for, oh my gosh, what, 6-7 years now? Right around the time he released his first book, Pilot's Cross. And we've kind of been following each other around the ether for about that long. Right. He has frequently been an encourager of all kinds of crazy doings in my world, and hopefully I have encouraged him along the way. One of the reasons why I wanted him to share his experiences with you is not only is he a fellow independent author, but he is also into public relations and marketing, much like I am, and he's got this whole audience building thing down. But because he can't resist the plug, before we jump into that topic, I want to give him a chance to tell you all about his podcast, his books, and rumor has it there's another John Pilot book coming out soon.
Oh, you were so good. And before I plug stuff, Michelle, you may not remember, you lived in the Key West, Florida area. And you knew Key West when I was writing the sequel to my first book. Pilot's Cross was the first book. Pilot's Key, which mostly takes place in Key West. And you were invaluable in, I've got a book on my shelf here. Is it the Atocha or the Atocha? Yeah.
Yes.
You pointed me to that book, which I used some tidbits from it, but it also informed the plot of the book. You kind of gave me some reality checks on some stuff. Even though I'd been to Key West a few times, you just were like this invaluable touchstone and such a sweetheart to me. And you always have.
Yo ho ho.
Yes, and you've always been so sweet and sweeter than I deserve, and I appreciate that. And it's funny too. And because Pilot's Key, out of all the John Pilot mysteries, it's not really funny, is it? Because it's the second book out of 5. It's still the most critically acclaimed and most commercially successful. So I see you're attached to what little success I've had. It's you. So just
apparently it's time to get John back out on vacation.
Yes, and that's where we are. So just to get the plugs out of the way, if you want to know more about me and my books, go to pilotscross.com, which I wish I had posted. I'm going to probably change that URL somehow or get it changed because that seems to be a stickler. It's hard to spell. Pilatescross. A lot of people think it's Pilates, like the guy's teaching an exercise class, and it's more like the Roman governor who washed his hands of the sentence to Jesus. Remember that, you know your Bible. But it's not a religious book. So that's the other thing too. People get confused. They're like, what's all this religious stuff? Anyway, so it's a mystery thriller series with a little bit of humor. Well, sometimes a lot of humor, snarkiness, all kinds of weird stuff. Anyway, there's a lot to it, but I won't bore you with that. But it's had some success. We've had 4 novels and 1 book of short stories. All of the books, except for the book of short stories so far, have been semifinalists or received honorable mention in a couple of different indie book award competitions. So I'm very proud of that. Shelf Unbound magazine has really liked most of what I've put out and given us some nice notables and stuff like that. So if you don't read Shelf Unbound and you're an indie author or a reader of stuff that's not, stacked all over the Barnes & Noble location, you should check out Shelf Unbound. It's a great publication. But yeah, the mothership is pilotscross.com, which the actual name of the site is Mysterious Goings On, which is got a blog and merchandise links. You can get autographed books and stuff like that. It's got everything you need to know about the John Pilot mysteries and me, your pal Al. We do a podcast called Mysterious Goings On, which we've done 18 episodes to date. We're talking in August of 2016. So if you're in the future, ooh, hello future, hello, are we still here? Okay, great. Then as of this recording, we have about 18 episodes, and we talk about what that podcast talks about. We interview authors. There's one who writes a really cool pirate series that you're probably going to hear from on the show. So check it out on iTunes. Mysterious Goings On. We talk about writing, especially in the genre and indie space. And sometimes I go off on tangents. It was named a new and noteworthy podcast by iTunes when it first came out, which was a nice bump when it started. It's kind of leveled out a little bit on the listenerships or the downloads at least since then, but it's doing all right. It's doing all right. So I have that. And today, right, Michelle, we're talking a little bit about author platform and marketing yourself. So if you have specific questions, I could tell you more about how I market my series or just whatever you'd like me to talk about.
Cool. Well, that's definitely where I want to go with this. And we may have to put in earphones if we keep having echo issues. We shall see.
You need me?
But that's really what I want to discuss with you is how did you build up this audience? Because for a lot of us, I know we get really knee deep in the weeds in our craft, whether that's writing or for musicians. There are independent musicians, independent filmmakers. We get really into our craft and sometimes forget to connect with the audience that would be consuming whatever it is we're creating. Sure. And I wanted to kind of get a little history from you as to how you got started from just writing a novel to building an audience for that series.
Well, like most writers, I did it backwards. I wrote the book first, and then all of a sudden went, crap. I need a place for people who like the book to coalesce. I'll just back up just a second and tell you, Pilots Cross, my first book, which has all the hallmarks of a first book, despite many revisions. Hey, but it's okay. I'm not. If I were really embarrassed of it, I wouldn't have it out there, and I shouldn't say stuff like that. That's a bad marketing thing. Never denigrate your own work. But
never mind what he just said, because I've read it 3 times already. That's how much I like it.
Jesus, you're a sweetheart. Thank you. And I've had 2 different editors on it, and it's as good as it's going to get. And it's thank you. It's not bad. I think I'm very critical of it because it was my first one, and I cringed after I put it out because I realized that my first editor and I did not work well together, and there were some problems. But the point being, I kind of wrote it as a one-off deal. It's just like I had this, I thought, great idea for a story from real life, and I was going to weave a fictional mystery novel into that. And I thought, well, this will be it. I'll just do one book and that'll be the end of it. And especially if it doesn't sell or anything. And what the thing was, I tried to get an agent. I tried no less than 100 different agents. Long story short, got down to about 3 agents who were very interested in representing me at the time, or at least they said they were. They reviewed the book and they said, well, it's got some problems, but we can fix some of those, and blah, blah, blah. Got down to one agent in particular who was just short of offering me a contract. And this was 2008. And if you all remember 2008, you know that the economy went right into the dumper. And I didn't hear from her for a while. I think the kids call it ghosting today. You email and you call and you don't hear anything, you get ghosted, right? Well, finally she gets back to me and she's like, Alex, I'm sorry, but the economy is a disaster. There's nobody who's going to buy a book from an unknown. I'm scrambling to keep my head above water. So in other words, thanks, but so long and thanks for all the fish, right? So I put the book in the drawer and thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I kept reading about, because I'm in the public relations field, and my work really does touch on a lot of online stuff and social media, and I kept seeing things about publishing your work as an ebook and all that kind of stuff. And so I did. I just thought, well, why not? And I put it out there, and it actually sold moderately well. And there was some decent reviews and some real, and it got a nice nod from a couple of public, a couple of contests. And I thought, well, and then I really thought I really enjoyed writing this, and so that's when I got into the aforementioned Pilot's Key as the sequel. So, but at that point, I realized, oh crap, I don't really have a place for people to go. But I think it was really late in the game. It was still towards the end of of Pilot's Key coming out in 2011 or 12 that I realized I should get a Facebook page together. And I believe that's around at the time I got a Facebook page together, which built up a few dozen followers right away, and then kind of flatlined for a while. I'll talk to you more about that later. I had a Twitter feed for it too. I had that for a number of years, which I got rid of about 2 years ago, because I have another Twitter feed that has got about 8,500 followers, and that one got to about 1,000 plus. And I realized it was just too much work for me to do two Twitter feeds, and I was kind of overlapping a lot of my content. But then I also developed the website, which I mentioned, pilotscross.com. So the thing was, I started developing these places where people could find me when they did web search. So I was on Facebook, which of course it's its own little world. Michelle knows far more about Facebook and how that works with search than I do. But having the website with the blog built into it was starting to get some notice, which was great. And then I started developing other social media platforms we can talk about. And one that really helped me with search, with SEO, search engine optimization, that really started helping me out, believe it or not, was the most maligned of social media platforms, which was Google+. A lot of my posting videos on Google+, posting hashtags about my books on Google+, really I started seeing my analytics go way up. And of course, it's pretty obvious why. Google's the largest search engine in the world, and that was their social media platform that they devised, as kind of crappy as it was to use.
Very cool. So what you're saying is that aside from the work of actually creating whatever it is we're creating, there's a lot of work to actually building an audience. And I kind of come along the same path that you have as far as publishing work and that kind of stuff, in that the traditional publishing houses really want to see a brand new name that has an audience behind them. It's a less of a risk for them when we can prove that we already have people that are interested in what we're doing and will help support the work. And truth be told, from what I've been seeing lately, even if you do happen to get an agent, a major publisher, that kind of stuff, the heavy lifting of marketing and building an audience and maintaining a community around your works still falls on the author to do.
I had a friend who started indie. He got picked up by a publisher. It wasn't the biggest publisher in the world, but a publisher, and his sales declined over his indie sales because even he was used to doing his own marketing. But at that point, it's like you said, Michelle, the publisher wants you to do the heavy lifting, but within their strictures. And of course, also indie writers, we could write, hopefully they'd be good, we could write 3 books in 3 months and put them all out one after the other if we wanted to. But if you're with a regular publisher, you're lucky if you get a book out every year or every other year, because their process is so long. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the heavy lifting is incumbent upon the author no matter what. My grandfather, late grandfather, who wrote Westerns for over 50 years now, he's been gone for about 15 years now. He was a mid-lister, but he never really got significant marketing help from publishers. And he was with, Double D Westerns, which was an imprint, I believe, of Bantam and some of the larger publishing houses. I mean, he was with them and a few others. He never got significant help. What's ironic about that is the ones who get the marketing push are the ones who don't need it. I mean, Stephen King, does that guy even need marketing money? No, but they actually do commercials for his books, and Jonathan Franzen, for that matter. It's kind of funny. It's chicken and the egg kind of deal. But One thing I do is maintain a presence in the lives of my readers. I believe I have over 1,000 Facebook followers, which is, my belief. I heard this somewhere. It might have been Mark Coker from Smashwords, but don't quote me on that, Mark, if you're having to watch this high. But second of all, I'm not sure if it was you or not, but I think it's pretty good advice. If you have a core as an indie of about 1,000 people you can count on to buy your stuff, that's pretty damn good. Now, out of the 1,000 people who follow me on Facebook, I can tell you right now they do not buy everything I put out. But they're hanging around my Facebook page. I can look at my insights and I can see, what posts interest them, and I can replicate some of that stuff on other social media platforms. And I'm not averse to occasionally doing paid boost of the page or boost of post to try to get people interested. For example, Michelle, on I call my podcast episodes chapters. Haha, isn't that clever? And I will generally boost for a few bucks links, a post about there's a new podcast up, just because I want to get more listenership to the podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm not averse to doing that. And also the podcasting is not, I'm not going to tell you podcasting is just super simple if you've never done it before. It is to me, because I've been doing it off and on for over 8 years for different clients and projects and stuff like that. But I can pretty well knock out, if it's just me talking, I can knock out an episode of Mysterious Goings On in about an hour and a half, because I make my notes, I record what I'm going to say. A lot of times I don't have notes, and that's obvious by listening. And then I have to go back and edit the podcast, because there's some people who don't do this, but I do. I don't like to hear my I get rid of all of those, and that can sometimes take me a long time. Listen, I just did see, or, and those things all go, because those things drive me crazy when I'm listening to a podcast, if there's a lot of them. And so I have to go through and cut those, and then I have to put my music in, intro, outro, and then I have to upload it, write the show notes for it, and then it goes through Libsyn, who I use, Liberated Syndication. And then you have to get it to go out to SoundCloud and iTunes and Stitcher and all that. And then I have to promote it. So really, per week, per episode, it's about 3 hours really of my time, including promotion, to do the podcast. Now, is the podcast getting me sales? I would have to say at this point, no, because my sales have been pretty flat since I started the podcast. But Michelle, you made the point about how big publishers want the author to have a platform. Well, aside from publishers it doesn't matter if a publisher wants you to have a platform. You should want to have a platform. And I am experimenting with what are the best ways to keep my readers interested? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it the podcast? Is it my blog? Is it a combination of all of them? I'm not sure. But the other reason I do this is because I think the more ubiquitous you are on social media and podcasting, things like that, the better your shot of getting mainstream media attention. Mm-hmm. I've been interviewed on local television a number of times. Now, part of that's because I'm in the PR profession, so I know I've probably got a little bit more inside baseball knowledge of how to get on TV or on the radio. But still, I view things like we're doing right now and my podcast as maybe auditions.
Certainly.
You know what I'm saying, Michelle? So like if you were my client and I wanted to get you on television to talk about Revenge of the Siren Song or the upcoming sequels, I could say, a lot of times a TV producer will say to me, well, Alex, do you have any tape on her? And I'll be like, actually, I do. And it may not be according to Hoyle news tape, but it's a Google Hangout. Mm-hmm. But that still shows, the producer can say, okay, she can, as they would say, she can talk. And everybody can talk, but she can talk on camera. She's natural. They look at this and see me and they go, that guy talks a lot. And you can't get a word in edgewise, In fact, and then I'm going to take a break in a second and see I'm already off to the next tangent. A buddy of mine is a media trainer, and I've been in the media, and I'm, on the both sides of the desk, so to speak, my whole career. But I remember I knew I had a 4-minute segment on this local TV show, and I was in such a hurry. I wanted to make sure I got so much information in that I came off kind of talking really fast. and it was not natural. And I asked him, so what do you think? How do you think I did? And he just totally, he said, well, points for getting all your, as he put it, all your crap in there. But he says, demerits for just not seeming very at ease and seeming not very natural. So I just kind of tangented on that, but those are some of my thoughts in that area. I'll drink more coffee.
That's just it. Everything is about, okay, being accessible, because we're storytellers, particularly authors, but even filmmakers and musicians, we're storytellers.
Absolutely.
And what better than to have a captive audience when telling our stories, right?
Right.
And sometimes we get so bogged down in character creation or plot or whatever that we can kind of get lost in our writing den and forget that there is an audience out there that really wants to ask us questions about, okay, where did that come from? It's so funny because in the process of getting ready to launch the revised edition of Revenge of the Siren Song, the companion audiobook, some of the extra stuff that I'm doing this time around that I didn't do the first time, I'm finding that there are extra opportunities. I've revamped and kind of revived my Wattpad account, my Goodreads account. There are all kinds of special places that people gather particularly just to read. And I wanted to make sure that not only am I reaching out to just general places where people congregate, like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, that sort of stuff, but that I'm also particularly reaching into those places where people gather to talk about books, literature, things that they like to read. And doggone it, if Goodreads isn't already asking me tons of questions. So what do you do about writer's block? Where did you get your ideas? Kind of the common questions, but that's part of telling a story. It's like people enjoyed the story. They got lost in it. They escaped into it for a while, and they're like, wow, where did that come from? And it's because we build community and we make ourselves as authors or creators accessible to the community once they've enjoyed the book and they're like, wow, okay, that was impressive. Can I talk to you a little bit about it? Right?
Right.
And that's really what gets other people to notice us, right? The more we talk about it, the more we engage with people that have already enjoyed the work, the more other people find the work.
Goodreads is such a great point. I know you've done this. I've done some giveaways of books on Goodreads. I've done some little mini author interviews. I've tried to replicate blog posts on there. There's so much to do, but you just reminded me that I haven't really.
I love the RSS feed feature on Goodreads. So yeah. I can publish it on my blog and Goodreads pulls it in. Love you for that, Goodreads.
That is so great. Yeah, good. And the thing about Goodreads is obviously it's readers, and so you just made a really great point, Michelle. And then okay, you got Facebook, and you find people who like your stuff, and that's great. And you want to maintain a fan page, but Goodreads is people who read and buy books, and that's their sole mission is to talk books and read books and review books. So I would recommend every author out there pay a lot of attention to Goodreads, and readers who don't write, of course, hang out there too. That's the whole point. So you nailed it. That's a really good point, and I'm just kind of mentally kicking myself for probably not maintaining my Goodreads account as well as I should. But that's a great point. Yeah, so Goodreads would be good to narrow it down to readers, and if you're a writer, doing a giveaway. If you have, I don't believe they do ebook giveaways yet, but if you have, a paperback or a hardback and you want to give one or many away, it's a great way to get people to just follow you as an author anyway. Because a lot of the times when I'm on there trying to win books, I'll think, well, I'd like to win that book, and I've never heard of that author, so I'll follow that author.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is where my little marketing brain kicks in. I'll kind of give you all. I have promised a blog post to Alex about this, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek here. I just recently ended a book giveaway contest on Goodreads. Like I said, this is actually a relaunch of Revenge of the Siren Song. I had released this book as a completely self-done. I wrote it, I edited it, I created the cover art, I did everything myself. When I first released this book, it's like, yeah, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did. And I happen to have, in a box that has moved like 3 or 4 times with me now, a stack of the original print copy of basically what is now the first edition. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to market this relaunch. Let's give some of those away, right? So I offered 30 books. I am in the process of signing them and putting together a bookmark and a thank you letter and some stuff to actually get them sent out. And what I discovered when Goodreads gave me the list of winners back was just how much information I could get about people interested in what I do. So I'm getting ready to let you guys kind of take a peek under the hood of how I market a book, because that list has turned into gold. I can actually look at the accounts, the Goodreads accounts of all of my winners. And on their account, they publicly, willingly, voluntarily tell us what books they're currently reading, what books they would like to read, what books they've read and reviewed before, what they think of books they've read in the past. We can also look at who else they're connected to on Goodreads. There is actually a lot of interest data available about that sampling. I just wish to goodness I could get the whole 850 plus list of people that requested an opportunity to win the book. I'd love to have the whole list, but even that sampling of 30 really does tell me a lot that I can use in how I present the book, as far as how I position it.
Right.
On Amazon, on Smashwords, on CreateSpace, as well as on Goodreads. I mean, I can go back in and tweak the book description and the tags and stuff on Goodreads to be more reflective of what that audience says that they like, that they're interested in. I can also use all of that information as targeting data if I want to spend some money to introduce new people to this book. I can use that information on Facebook. I can use it on Twitter. I can use it on YouTube if I get around to doing a book trailer. There are several different ways that I can make a lot of use of what was basically just a giveaway. I get a lot out of that. That's worth gold to me.
You're so smart. I mean, the only thing you can't do is spam those people with email in the future, right? I mean, you can send them a book, right? But you can't continually hit them up after that.
No.
But you're
not unless they voluntarily sign up for my email list. Now, there's nothing wrong with sending them a thank you letter and saying, if you're interested, here's where you can go get my email newsletter.
I just wouldn't want anybody to think they could do that and miss the part where, because if Goodreads catches authors spamming people who won the books just after that initial deal without their permission, you're booted off of Goodreads.
And that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about taking all of that intelligence from those people and then using it not only on Goodreads, but every place else that I'm doing marketing.
So smart. And I'll admit it, I've never even thought to look at that. But but the other reason is probably because you gave away 30. I think the most I've ever given away is 2 at a time. Mm-hmm. So I get 2, and that's not really a big enough sample. So that's a clever idea. So let me ask you this, because I've done this. I have still got a few of my first editions, which I'm not, they're all right, but they're not, obviously, there's a reason you revised the book. There's a reason I revised mine. So do you make it very clear this is pre-revision and that there's going to be some stuff in there that you might find, but is that clear to everybody?
Yeah, it was very clear that this is a first edition. And the welcome letter will also explain, hey, this is a first edition. You might find bumps and stumbles along the way, but rest assured, if you're interested, please let me know. There's going to be a new ebook, a new print book, an audio book. Yeah, I mean, if they're a little bit disappointed in the first edition, they have plenty of opportunity to get the new one.
Get the new one, yeah. Well, that's good.
But mostly what I'm hoping that I get out of sending them the book and engaging with them. Oh, by the way, as I sign these, I'm actually going and looking at their Goodreads account and getting a sense of who I'm signing each of these books to, so that these are really very personalized. And that's because Goodreads allows me to get to know each of these people a little bit.
You are so smart. You are so data driven, and you know, authors are going to have to learn some of these tactics. I need to learn to be that way too.
Well, you know what? This isn't any different than, you know, the same tactics that you would employ if you were meeting people at a cocktail party, right?
Right.
All I'm doing is making a little extra effort to get to know the person that I'm engaging with and asking them a few questions, or paying attention, more importantly, to what they're already saying to other people that they're conversing with, so that, you know, once I step into that group, I can say, oh, I'm interested in that too. That's really fascinating what you had to say, because a lot of successful marketing, although yes, you have to get your message out there, but truth be told, successful marketing is a lot more about listening than it is about talking.
That's why I'm just listening right now. No, you're so right. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of taking lemons and making lemonade with these first editions. I was a little nervous about putting mine out because of the bumps in them, but I make it really clear to people, you know, I kind of position mine as collector's items if you're a true diehard, you know, collector. And I've got a few. I've got about, I would say there's about 8 people who want everything. I mean, there's others that are much more casual. They're like, I'll download the ebook and all that. But there's about 8 people who want every book, everything, you know, they want signed just so, and all this stuff. And one of those people even calls me every few months, I mean, where's the next book? And that's not me in the phone book. I think that's great.
No, that's not me. As much a diehard fan as it is, I'm not the one guilty of that.
No, but that's another great idea. You know, I mean, to kind of wrap it up, because I've talked, but I got to go soon. But the way, the thing I would recommend to you, and some of you might say, well, I haven't published a book. How can I create a community? Well, if you've got the book about ready, let's say you haven't published yet, but you know the title, you've got the cover art, you've got stuff, at least save the domain name, save the Facebook name, get on Goodreads as a reader and start following people who are particularly in your genre and commenting and liking and enter contests and win some of their books and that kind of thing. Start that now, even if, or maybe you don't even know the title of your book yet, but get as many placeholders as you can, and prepare for that, and then develop a strategy for updating that. I don't update my Facebook page for authors, for my book series more than 5 times a week probably, and it doesn't seem to affect things. The days I've updated it twice a day for 6 days a week, I don't see a big uptick in readership either way. And make sure, and this is for another call or another interview, perhaps when you're on my show. Vary your content. Just please make sure that it's not always about you and your books, because the cocktail party analogy, which Michelle just brought up, is like, I use that all the time when I give talks and seminars and lectures, is, you know, we've all been to a cocktail party where you get stuck in a corner with the guy and all he talks about is himself, and all you want to do is get away from people like that. So if your social media is reflective of that, if all it is me, buy my book, people are going to ditch you in droves. So just a little free advice from me on that. But the other thing, last thing I would recommend today on this topic is be responsive. There's 2 things. One, if somebody takes the time to buy and read your book, and then takes the time to not only maybe, oh gosh, reviewing it, which is like gold, you know, getting people to review books, that's another discussion too. But if they take the time to reach out to you on Twitter or social media or wherever you are, or your blog, be quick and responsive and gracious. Even if I've had this, even if they're saying things that aren't incredibly kind about your work, be responsive, not argumentative, just thank them for reading, thank them for taking the time to respond. Because remember, on social media, you're not just responding to that one person, and generally responding to the whole world at large who can see it. There was that gal who, the writer who, she got some really bad reviews and started getting on Amazon and arguing really irrationally, and she just it went on and became kind of a social media sensation a couple of years ago. And she just totally blew up her reputation and embarrassed herself incredibly. So that's an extreme example. So anyway, build your platform, manage your platform, take care of your readers, do like Michelle says, get some intel, find out who your readers are, what they like, and go after them. And of course, the most important thing is to keep writing.
Absolutely, yes. And don't fear this process either. Pick one channel, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Facebook, or play in the playground, play in the sandbox that you're most comfortable with first.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to. Alex and I are crazy. We're everywhere. You don't have to be everywhere. Play in the sandbox that you're most comfortable with. Enjoy the heck out of that conversation in that place that you really, really love. And it'll be fine. And if you have questions, by all means, Alex and I actually do this professionally. Please reach out to us. We'll help you.
We'll do our best. We certainly will. You can find me. Pilotscross.com is my book site. Also, my PR site. My public relations firm is AGPR, and that's alexgpr.com. We do work with some authors. You got to have a budget, of course. You know, I've got to eat. Kids got to wear some new shoes every now and then. So, but you know, if it's just a quick question or something like that, particularly if you follow my John Pilot Mysteries fan page on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter at @A_Greenwood, I'll be happy, you know, for a quick question to give you my opinion or my honest answer of how to approach something. And if you need more than that, and I can't work with you professionally for whatever reason, I know a lot of people who I can refer you to. So I'd be happy to do that.
Fantastic. Fear not, everyone. The links and all of those places that you can reach both Alex and myself are going to be available in the description, in the show notes. Trust me, I will take really good care of you on that. And for today, that will do it for this pleasure cruise of the Rouges of Sea Sky podcast and webcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, sweetie. It really was. You're just such a good friend and resource to so many people. Thanks for flattering me by having me on. And I'm going to return the favor, if you will, and I'll have you on Mysterious Goings On very soon.
Fantastic.
All right.